Thursday, November 7th, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Well, we're going to look at the U.S. again today. It seems to me that America has made the right turn, but the economic road ahead will be very, very bumpy in my opinion. Yes, we saw a bit of euphoria yesterday in the stock markets and in the currency markets. And markets seem to do that. They seem to discount something that could happen in the next few years in one day, especially after a presidential election. And we shouldn't be distracted from the fundamentals. And one of the most important things about the fundamentals is the debt and the fact that government has been spending like a drunken sailor. And even under President Trump's first term, that was the case despite the greatest economy ever, right? So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to recommend a book that kind of will let you know where we are cyclically. And the book is The Fourth Turning is Here by Neil Howe. He wrote The Fourth Turning back in the late 90s with William Strauss. William Strauss unfortunately passed away, so he's come back with this. And you don't need to read the first book to understand what's going on. And he talks about the secular or generational cycles and how we're in for a very turbulent time. It's the winter right now, the next few years until the early 2030s, and there will be a big crisis. And going back, these fourth turnings happen every 80 to 100 years. The last one was during the Great Depression and World War II. Prior to that was the Civil War. And prior to that was the Revolutionary War. And you can be certain that the debt and the currency, they were very important subjects during those fourth turnings. So I don't think it's plain sailing now just because Donald Trump has won for the economy. I think it will be much better for the economy that he won, and hopefully it will be much better for the rest of the world as well. But we're going to look at the numbers, and they don't lie. And the bond markets didn't like, they were quite, they weren't euphoric because bond prices actually dropped quite sharply yesterday, and the 10-year yield actually went to 4.5%. Before I go forward and talk about the fundamentals, about the debt, just wanted to give a shout out again to my precious metals dealer. And you might be saying, what are you talking about? Gold and silver got smashed yesterday. Yes, they did. But I think it's just temporary because gold and silver are the anti-debt. And as we're going to see later, nothing has changed. And Trump's job is going to be very tough. It's not going to be plain sailing. So Miles Franklin, they've got a new special. It's a 2024 Lion and Eagle 1 ounce gold coin. It's a UK coin. It's only $99 over spot per ounce. And they've also got the Silver Britannias, the 1 ounce Silver Britannias. They're still only $2.99 over spot. You can get a hold of them by emailing info@milesfranklin.com or calling them on 1-800-822-8080 and mention also Mario or Monaco 64. Gold Investments here in London, in the UK, for my UK viewers. All their details are below in the description, and I have some promo codes there that you can use to get a slightly better deal than the rest of Gold Investments customers. And talking about Gold Investments, I'm going up today to London to meet Oliver and Simon and pick up a few sovereigns that I recently bought through them. So I'm continuing to stack, and talking about stacking and gold and the fundamentals, let's jump over to the bond market. Yes, the stock market did very well yesterday, of course. I think it's a combination of a few things. One, there are a lot of people hedging for some kind of event to the downside because of the U.S. election. I think some thought that Kamala Harris was going to win, even though I wasn't convinced, because I don't really watch too much the mainstream media. But I think a lot of people had, they were worried that she could come back, and a continuation of socialism would be really bad for the stock market. So when Trump won, I think a lot of people covered their shorts. And then you had euphoria as well, because Trump is going for deregulation. He's going for continued tax cuts. He's going to re-implement his tax cuts that I think go off the books next year. And he's going to be good for business, and I don't disagree. And he was a lot better for business back when he, in his first administration. So we had the Dow up 1,500 points, 3.5%, S&P 146, 2.5%, and the NASDAQ as well up 544, just under 3%. But if you look at the bond market, as I said earlier, the longer end was really sold off. We had the 10-year yield trade up to almost 4.5%. Right now, it has come off that high. We're at 4.43, and I think it's still going to be under pressure. And why is that? Even though we're told that there's going to be a new department in the federal government, and that in of itself is not a good thing. New government departments always mean more bureaucracy, but this one is supposed to be going to be run by Elon Musk, the Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, which is a good play on words if you know about Dogecoin and Elon Musk. According to him, he's going to cut the deficit by $2 trillion, which sounds really good. But I've heard that Trump said a few months ago when he was campaigning, or maybe even in one of the debates, that he's going to honor all the unfunded liabilities, all the Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And we know that the baby boomers, we're at the top. Right now, there's never been as many people retiring at the same time. And it's going to continue to grow up until the 2030s. And the Congressional Budget Office sees the debt in the U.S. continue to grow. So yes, maybe Elon Musk might be able to cut $2 trillion of government waste, but we'll have to see. There's a lot of entrenched special interests out there. And I know Trump is looking to change things around and to slash maybe departments of government, and I'm all for that. I'm for really small government, as most of you already know. All I'm trying to tell you here is that it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. And the other thing, as well, as we approach here 36 trillion on the national debt, we're continuing to see deficit spending. And I want to show you a bar chart here of United States federal government budget. And it's a 10-year chart. It goes back to 2014. And you can see there's two big drops here, and this means the government spent a lot. They were in huge deficit, and that happened in 2020 and 2021, and we know why that happened. I think it was wrong, of course, to shut down the economy and for the government to borrow and for the Fed to print money, and that's why you had that huge deficit there that almost approached 15% of GDP. And of course, that huge deficit there was under President Trump. Some people will argue, well, it was an emergency. It was just like fighting a war. Okay. But it shows that even President Trump will resort to emergency spending if necessary. So that's the other thing I wanted to put out there. And even before 2020, if you look at 2019, where one could argue that Trump's economy was doing really great, and we've been told that it was the greatest economy ever, but the budget deficit was almost 5% of GDP, was 4.6% of GDP. If an economy is doing really well and growing, you'd hope that the government would be running a surplus. And I do agree that maybe Congress wasn't set up the right way for them to slash the size of government like Elon Musk wants to do right now. But we'll have to wait and see. Yes, deeds are much more powerful than words, I would say, and we need to wait. And you can see here, we still have 75 days until inauguration. It's a long time in terms of the economy, and the budget deficit hasn't improved. Yes, it's been slashed, the deficit, so to speak, since the crisis, the COVID crisis, but it's still bigger than it was in 2019. In 2022 is 5.4%, and in 2023, the last fiscal year, 6.2%. And of course, I've never believed the narrative of a great economy from the Biden administration. And we saw recently that the jobs data are getting really bad. So who's not to say that the economy cannot unravel in the next 6 months? And I think we need to keep an eye on that, and we need to keep an eye on government spending, deficit spending, because as we've seen before, emergency will not stop President Trump and his administration, and Congress for that matter. I mean, even if Congress is Republican, we've seen in the last few years that the Republicans will go along with the Democrats, and they're all like big spenders. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And I think the bond vigilantes are worried about it. They're trying to remind the markets and governments and the central banks that they're watching. And talking about central banks, isn't it ironic that the Federal Reserve today are expected to cut rates when the markets are at all-time high, when there's euphoria, when the bond markets are saying we're worried about inflation? It will be an interesting decision and aftermath to that decision. And the same thing is happening here in the UK. This morning or at noon, the Bank of England is expected to cut rates from 5 to 4.75. But the bond vigilantes are hard at work here as well in the UK. Well, we've seen the 10-year yield in the UK go up to 4.62 yesterday. Right now we're at 4.60. So I am optimistic about the fact that we've got a new administration coming in the US. I think from what we're told, the Trump administration is going to be a lot more pro-market. They're going to, of course, not be into the woke World Economic Forum climate change, ESG narrative. And I guess the globalists don't like that, but we still have a lot of hurdles. And one of them is the debt, interest rates, sound money as well. And yes, there's a lot, a lot of bumps on the road. And hopefully we'll be able to navigate it and profit from it as well. And that's the other thing about capitalism, free markets. People, should profit from things if they create value. The push against profits and business is something that's socialist, to try to create an environment of envy. And unfortunately, that's what they're doing here in the UK. Let's hope some of the new blood in the US spills over into the UK. I mean, we've got a guy called Ed Miliband. He's a part of the cabinet. He's in charge of the energy policy, and he wants us living in caves, I think, because he said we're going to have to sacrifice with blackouts so we don't emit any carbon by 2030, which is ridiculous, of course. That what he wants really is just to kill the economy, because we know, of course, that carbon dioxide only makes up 0.04% of the atmosphere. And that's the other thing I wanted to say. I think the mainstream media is in trouble, and hopefully alternative views like mine and others are starting to be more widespread out there on social media, on the internet, and I think it is. So I'm going to push forward. I'm going to keep going and try to expose the globalists with truth about money, about the debt, and about the economy, that we need less government and less interference and more protection of the individual and the individual's property, because that's what it's all about. Yes, with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.